thank you for joining us and welcome to Better Together Live, where we create helpful community connections when it matters most. I am Yamile Bowman, your host and the Community Relations Coordinator here at Therapy Works. Today, I am happy to be joined by Jeremy Miller, who is going to talk about conscious recovery. Super excited. Thank you, Jeremy, for being here today.
Thank you so much for having me. I've been watching your guys' show for a while, and I'm so grateful to be here and to see your face and be in conversation again.
Thank you. Thank you. So we started Better Together Live to highlight local resources like yours, like Conscious Recovery, to offer expanded access to support for our local community. So I'm super happy that you're here today. And let's just start talking about a bit about yourself. So go ahead.
Yeah, so I've been in the addiction treatment field for almost 12 years now in a multitude of roles. And I started as a tech and got certified as a counselor, and then eventually transitioned more to marketing and business development. And about 2 or 3 years ago, I met TJ Woodward, and he was his book, Conscious Recovery, was just about to come out. And he and I were in conversation about the treatment field, and we shared a lot of the same perspectives and goals. And both of us were very clear that we wanted to support the industry as a whole, rather than being really singular in our efforts, like working for one program. And so that's kind of my background in a nutshell.
Good. So tell us a little bit about conscious recovery and how does it work?
Sure. So yeah, it's
super interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of a big thing. It started as a book. And what it is it's a treatment modality. So Conscious Recovery, the book, was obviously the work of TJ Woodward, who is just a pioneer and a visionary.
I love him. Yeah, he's great.
He's incredible. And for him, it started with one question. And that question was, what would it create if we viewed people with addiction and mental health as whole and complete rather than broken? And so with that came Conscious Recovery, which identifies the 3 root causes of addiction as unresolved trauma, toxic shame, and spiritual disconnection. So it started as a book, and TJ's been in the field for 30 years helping people break their cycle of addiction, and then it became a curriculum that now treatment programs use as part of their curriculum. So I think we're at 13 or 14 programs now that are certified as Conscious Recovery programs.
So to get certified, you and TJ come to, for example, Therapy Work and train our therapists.
That's right.
Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
So we do in-person training with clinicians, and it is almost exclusively experiential. And so TJ, with his background as a spiritual minister, he has a very specific way of training with people where we want to experience, we want to be in an energy field and feel in the room what's created when we're looking at one of our clients or patients. And if we're holding space that they are broken or that we need to fix them, what does that create in the room compared to what does it create if I simply hold space for them as a human being who has lived a life that has added layers, and underneath that there is a part of ourselves that is whole and perfect and unharmed and unharmable. And that's kind of our perspective with Conscious Recovery.
Right, that's beautiful. But I think when, like you said earlier, and I'm not in recovery, I don't have any addictions, maybe chocolate, that will be my biggest addiction.
You do? Yeah.
Right, yes.
Yeah.
But I think when you're in recovery and you have addictions, you just feel broken, right? Because I think you live thinking people around you are thinking that you're broken. How you get that person to get out of it? I mean, it has to be like a lot of work.
It's, interestingly, it's a lot of work and also incredibly simple. So you're absolutely right that addiction and mental health are so stigmatized culturally. And I feel like we're kind of coming out of that, where our conversations around addiction and mental health are becoming a lot more normalized, a lot more compassionate and empathetic. We're not quite there yet.
Yeah.
But in addiction, oftentimes people do feel like there's something wrong with me. There is, shame is feeling that something is wrong with me. I am wrong, right? Guilt is I've done something wrong and I feel bad about it. And so when we're working with shame, what we like to remind people of is if you can recall a time in life, usually in childhood, when, our natural state is joy as human beings. When we're 4 years old, 5 years old, we're at play, we're in awe and curiosity around the world, and we're
Like
so
innocence, right?
innocent.
Brings
Yeah.
all that.
And I think that our natural resting place
Yeah.
is joy. And then as we accumulate core false beliefs and
Mm-hmm.
hand-me-down beliefs about ourselves and the world, we start to shift out of that. And so our work with conscious recovery is what TJ calls the great remembering, or returning to that sense of inner wholeness that we all have. It's just how much do we have to dig through to get there?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I guess that's the difference, which that was going to be my next question, between the traditional addiction treatments and conscious recovery treatment. Would you say that's kind of like the big difference?
Yeah, I think, a lot of times it can be somewhat of a misconception that conscious recovery is an alternative to traditional treatment, which it is not. We like to look at conscious recovery as an additional tool or an ancillary tool that can be added on to any treatment model. So we have a ton of people that are working the 12 steps and also reading conscious recovery and doing the workbook, right? And so what we like to view conscious recovery as is a way to dig deeper. So when someone's working the 12 steps, for example, there's a lot of action, there's a lot of doing, and conscious recovery is really trying to get down to the being, right? How can I learn more about who I am beneath my name, my job, my addiction? Who am I as an essential being, right? And then when we can access that, we recognize, wow, like, I'm not broken. I'm not incomplete. I have everything I need. I just need help accessing that. And so that's really kind of what we're trying to be. If addiction is a dark cave, we're not the ones walking through it, but maybe we could be the flashlight.
Yeah, I was going to say that maybe put that person in the middle of a group and just shower them with love and, and hugs and all that. I think we all need that, right? Whether you are in recovery or not, I think we need more of that.
Yeah. And that's another thing too with conscious recovery is that I've had people say, wow, I wish there was a book like that for people that don't have addiction. And I said, well, it's called conscious recovery. We're all recovering from something. Right? Yeah, exactly. And so it's really just, what can we create by holding a space of pure empathy and compassion for our clients, our friends, our loved ones, as opposed to thinking they're broken and I need to fix them. Yeah.
So how does conscious recovery, like the holistic approach, I would say, to addiction works? I mean, you're talking about a little bit like getting into like the soul, the being. Is that how you call it, like the holistic approach?
Yeah, I think it's holistic in we're treating, we're not treating, we're assisting people as a whole, right? So in traditional treatment, and we are seeing a huge shift in our industry to include more than just the mind, right? So for a long time, traditional treatment was change your thinking, change your life. And that's absolutely true. There are times where things like CBT, for example, can be incredibly helpful. And so what we're witnessing, what we've experienced is that there's a lot of work with the mind, some work with the body through fitness and things like that, but relatively no work spiritually. And if it's true that we're spiritual beings, if we come into this world as complete spiritual beings full of joy and curiosity and wonder, how can we get back to that? How can we make recovery more than just not using drugs and drinking? How can we make it a spiritual journey where we're really connecting with who and what we truly are?
Tell me how.
Well, so you go to consciousrecovery.com.
I need to get my book.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think I love that. I love that because like you said earlier, I think we all need a little bit of that, right? Every day in our lives, we need to focus in our whole, like in our heart, and take care of ourselves. And
that's right.
Because I think when the light inside of us is brighter, everything, it's better.
Radiates. Yeah. And
Right? Radiates, yeah.
that's a really interesting thing too, Yamile, is that we were doing conscious recovery meetings for a brief time during the shelter in place. And both of us went into it thinking we'd get a lot of people new in recovery, and we were so excited to support them.
Right.
And what we ended up finding was that most people that came had actually been in recovery for 10 years, 15
Look at
years.
that.
And they were craving or yearning for a deeper spiritual experience. And so our goal is not to replace any kind of treatment method or model, but rather enhance what people are already doing through a spiritual lens.
You guys are doing an absolutely incredible job, and I want to thank you for that. I think it's great.
Thank you so much.
Totally great. Yeah. When you guys identify a trauma, in my mind, which I know it's wrong, I don't want to think trauma is just physical or emotionally.
Right. That's right.
Is there any other traumas that you can identify that you guys need to first access that?
Absolutely. I think what we're learning and what we're really tapping into now in the field at large is that trauma isn't just, like you said, a physical experience or an emotional experience. Oftentimes we kind of assimilate it to abuse or sexual trauma or a massive event like a car crash, which is all true. That is all trauma. And I think what we're learning now is that trauma can show up in so many different ways. It could be, our inner child, or back in childhood, we had needs and wants that weren't met, or we had emotional experiences that weren't understood. And so I was working with a client last week, and we were working with his trauma, and his trauma was that, his parents' generation, their attitude or perspective towards children was that they're seen but not heard. And so he'd spent a lifetime shying away from his own voice and not feeling comfortable or confident in owning his truth and what he is. And that to me is absolutely trauma. It's any time that our needs weren't met, our wants weren't met, we were denied an emotional experience or misunderstood for having an emotional experience.
Right.
And so the perspective that conscious recovery holds is that there is no good feeling or bad feeling. There's no good emotion or bad emotion. They're just emotions. And if we can welcome them in our lives and integrate our emotions rather than shy away from them or stuff them deep, deep down into the shadow, then all of a sudden we're living a more authentic, connected life. And that trauma doesn't play as big a role in how we manifest things within our life.
That's interesting. What thing of you say, which I love that, by the way, is a lot traumas, I think, comes also because of cultural wise.
For sure.
Right?
Yes. Yeah, cultural trauma, generational trauma. I mean, and I'm really, really excited because our field really is starting to hold space for those things.
I know. I can see that. Yeah.
It's been incredible to kind of see that roll out with us. Yeah.
That's beautiful. Conscious recovery talks a lot about treatment and healing. Do you heal the person first and then the treatment starts? What comes first?
Sure. So
I don't know if it's a good question, but
no, it's a great question. So we actually don't look at it as treating, because so often the word treatment and language is so important, but treatment often deals with the symptoms and the behaviors rather than where they're coming from. And so the perspective that conscious recovery holds is that we're not healing the person, right? I'm not treating the person. I'm supporting the person and holding space for them in accessing that place that is already healed. And so what happens with life is these things pile on and we start to believe these lies about ourselves, like I'm not good enough, I'm broken, there's something wrong with me. And when we can unlearn those things, the person naturally will begin to heal themselves. And so I want to make it very clear that I'm not healing someone. I'm supporting them in their own healing
process.
Yeah. And so in the book, Conscious Recovery, there are tons of practical exercises that assist them in that great remembering or returning to that state of inner wholeness. Yeah.
I think, I mean, I don't know if you guys use in your program some yoga and mindfulness and all that stuff, but I have a lot of people who tells me just, you know, meditate every morning.
Yeah.
Just try to get back in touch with yourself. I think
that's right. Yeah, and there are a lot of meditative pieces to conscious recovery, a lot of really deep introspection.
Right. Yeah.
And as a treatment model, you know, the programs that we partner with oftentimes have really strong elements of physical healing, like yoga and fitness, things like that. And conscious recovery is really supporting that journey as a whole. So just for example, if someone with fitness, let's say, a lot of times people are really resistant or afraid of entering any kind of fitness program because it can be very intimidating. I look at someone who's very fit, I look at myself, and all of a sudden I feel broken. I say, I'm not as good as them. I
don't look like that. I
don't look like that. I don't have abs. And all of a sudden it's all these things, all these core false beliefs, right? And so where conscious recovery comes in is supporting the shift in that inner narrative so that when someone shows up at a gym, they're confident in who they are because they've returned to that sense of wholeness. I already have everything I need inside me. Can I access it? And that's the work.
Yeah, the first step is the hardest, right?
That's right.
Always. Or anything.
Yep.
Oh, wow. Jeremy, this is so good. Thank you so much. And I want to be very respectful of your time. I know you're a very, very busy guy, but is there anything else you would like to add to this?
Yeah, I think what I'd like to add is that we've recently launched a movement, the Unharmable Movement.
I wanted to ask you about that.
Yeah, we are so excited about it. And really it is, you know, TJ has 35 years of work. And when he and I were in conversation about what is the consistent theme, what's the through line to all of TJ's work, and what came through for us was a very simple message. And that is that despite what's happening in the world, despite what's happening in our lives, there is a place within us that is unharmed and unharmable. And I think that given the nature of 2020, this message is more important now than maybe ever. And so what we're hoping to do is support people in recognizing that no matter what happens in life, we are unharmable. There is a place deep within us that is so full of light and radiance that nothing that happens in the world can ever affect that. And so we started this movement. The website is unharmable.com, and there's tons of information about what the movement is and more importantly, how to get involved, because we really want the engagement from our communities and our friends and colleagues. While we are responsible for starting the movement and building the website and all the logistical stuff, we don't view it as our thing. We view it as a global thing that we want everyone to be able to participate in. And I'm just like on the moon about it. You know, we've got shirts.
I can tell you're very excited. I know. I'm going to get my shirt. Yes.
Good. Yeah. And so, you know, and soon we're going to have hats and all the cool stuff. And the vision is just walking around, seeing people owning the fact that they are unharmable. And what would that create in the world if we shifted the conversation from the pain that was 2020 and the loss and all that stuff, and shifted it towards, I am unharmable. What would that create in the world? And we're having a blast.
Oh, I'm super happy to hear that. Yeah, you're having a blast. I think one of my questions, my last question today was, what do you do to de-stress? And I think what do you do? I think the work you do is wonderful.
Yeah, I think that's it. I mean, it's just really advocating for people with mental health and addiction, and trying to do what I can to support them in their own inner journey. And conscious recovery has been life-changing for me too. I mean, I've been in recovery 12 years, and only the last 3 have I really gotten to know myself. And I feel like that is such a common theme in recovery, and that's what we're here to support.
Perfect. Jeremy, what are your favorite resources out there right now?
Oh man, as far as
Apart from Therapy Works, of course.
yeah, well, Therapy Works, Malaya and your whole team are just phenomenal. And
Thank you.
I really enjoy watching all the work that you guys are doing. There's an outpatient program in Los Gatos called Embodied Recovery. And I've worked with them for the last year, and they are doing some incredible work with mental health and addiction.
Yeah.
And I love the team there. I think the clinicians are phenomenal, and I've worked with a lot, so definitely embodied recovery. Let's see what else. I love, we're surrounded by phenomenal programs. So, I mean, there's no shortage of good treatment out there for residential. We have Duffy's and Elevate, and of course, Bayside Marin and Azure Workers and the camp. I mean, we're surrounded, right?
We are, yeah.
Yeah, so we're really, really fortunate. But I'd have to say that, yeah, embodied recovery, that's my go-to for outpatient stuff. Yeah.
Perfect. Would you please share your information?
Yeah, of course. So my website has been under construction because I've been building websites for everybody else.
Yeah, that's right.
But I think the best way to find us and what we're up to is at consciousrecovery.com. Everything you need to know about it is on that website. And then for the Unharmable Movement, that's unharmable.com. And those are the two that we're really excited about. So for anybody needing information, that's where you can go.
Perfect. Thank you so much. And for us, our philosophy here at Therapy Works is very simple. We are better together. And you said it really, really well earlier, like, all those resources we have around, right? When we cooperate and we work together, it's for our community. So
that's right. Yep.
If you guys want to learn more about Therapy Works, visit us at mytherapyworks.com. And this is for today. This is a bye-bye.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jeremy.
Yeah, so grateful for you.
Yes, and have a wonderful day.